I'm back. I'm just recording because I know we don't have a full chapter to go through. Just whatever this is. And I'm tired and I want to get this done so I can edit it all and prepare for the last chapter of characters, I think, which would be Luke. And then I think it's going to go to the main game again. So let's just jump on in. So, hey, Ash is what we start at. This time I glance at him, briefly gauging the mood. Not because reconciliation's an issue for me. Between us, it never will be. But somehow this is another thing I'm all too afraid to see crumble in front of me. One wrong word. If this is going to end in another argument, we might as well stop as early as now. There's another long pause from him, during which he can't seem to figure out what to do with his hand. In the end, he chooses to stuff both into his pocket and train his eyes on the now empty space behind the counter. Without our notice, G has slipped back to the kitchen, leaving only the two of us and everything awkward in the world at the moment. Still, Zach trudges on, a hopeful tone slipping into his voice simply because it's the only thing he knows to do.
Did you get any sleep?
Oh, and if you hear this little roar in the background, that's my little robot cleaning the house because my house is kind of dirty. Because I've been doing a lot of little building shits. It's a start, at least. A stiff one, but a start. At least I can offer in return is that rare honesty.
For a few hours, yeah.
Kurt. Rusk. Not an ounce of friendliness in it. In spite of it, Zach takes it as a sign. Relief washes over him as his shoulders relax and he releases a tense breath. Soon he's closing the distance he has put between us and flops onto the chair to my
I
right.
think the better question is if the dreams are pleasant. And for the record, no.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get those a lot.
He shifts in his seat, coughs, drums his fingers on the counter for a short while, then falls silent. That's it, no apologies. Somehow that short exchange is all we need. The air changes again, much like everything we've known lately. Maybe not for the better, not yet. However, it's less suffocating with less hostility and resentment. The kind where it's easy to pretend, easy to forget. Not that it's a thing that'll happen anytime soon, but one can dream. In a situation where death might come knocking any time, it's these little hope we cling to. Yeah, the fighting between you guys was pointless and cliche, and it didn't have to happen for a good story. In fact, it kind of makes the story stupid because it just came out of nowhere with no build-up, no nothing. It's just like, well, let's start a fight. It's these little things we wish will happen again. I'm not an optimistic person by nature, hopefully, maybe, but never optimistic. Though I want to believe there's a way we'll live through this nightmare. It's just funny how it took all of us to spur these kinds of thoughts to me. I can't even remember the last time something like this has occurred to me. For some reason, after seeing one harrowing thing after another, I've simply forgotten.
Why are you suddenly smiling like that?
Huh? Oh, no, I was just thinking about something.
Well, it better be something that'll get us out of this mess.
What makes you think I know how to fix this? Until 2 days ago, I didn't even believe a word you guys have been telling me. Zach, I function better when I'm dealing with homicide cases. Hell, feel free to throw in the usual robbery and missing persons case into the mix. I don't care. Give me a few days and I'll give you a lead. This isn't how I operate. This isn't what I'm good at. For all you know, I might even end up getting us killed. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, the fact that you're frustrated but still trying already means something, Ash. Besides, you don't make that face unless you already have an idea.
Robot vacuum! In the hallway as traces the realms of the house, yes. You know not to come in this room. There's expensive shit in this room and wires, yeah. You just bypass that door, yeah. Because I put a no-go there.
It can't be any worse than this. Maybe it's on your mind, Ash.
There really is something about Z-Man. Between Rebecca and him, I tend to share with him things I won't normally say to other. Unlike her who pushes, sometimes with the same tenacity as her moods, Zach has a strange tendency to ease people into telling them what he wants to know. Oftentimes, the questions feel so subtle, it catches me off guard, with less force and more forbearance. After all, out of everyone, he's the most grounded. Really, he's like the older brother I never had, the kind you can depend on when things go sour. The kind you can tell things to simply because he'll listen without forcing his own opinions on you.
We still have one more lead we haven't checked. I'm gonna look into it tonight.
Doesn't take him long to put two and two together, and his calm expression abruptly dissolves to worry, the second he realizes what I meant. We've already examined the letter, read through all piles of documents. There's really only one thing we haven't given a once-over. The mansion. Of course, Zach may not be the kind to push, but that doesn't mean he agrees with everything that comes out of my mouth. It's his way of keeping me steady and on my feet through the years.
Didn't you tell me not to go in there? Whatever happened to stay away from Luke Wright?
You're an unarmed civilian, Zach.
And so?
So, I want you to stay here and keep yourself safe. I probably won't take too long, but I don't know what might happen. I'm not even sure if I'll find something in there. G will keep an eye on you guys. If you need anything, that woman shows up, just holler. He'll help out, no questions asked. You don't even need to explain anything.
He's not willing to concede, not from the manner he grips his knees or the rigid set to his
I'm
jaw.
going with you. You can't go in there alone, Ash. I heard something. The morning I was there, I heard someone scream, and then there was a woman crying, and I don't know what's going on inside that mansion, but I am telling you, you shouldn't face whatever's inside alone.
Before I can stop myself, a heavy breath escapes from my mouth. It's one of those times again where Zach means well, but he's completely missing the point I'm trying to make. When things take a turn for this, when things take a turn for this, when things take a turn like this, when he gets in a mood like this, he's almost as headstrong as Isabella. How and where do I even start? There are only two ways this will end. I agree with him and take him with me, or I agree with him and drop the idea altogether. Neither appeals more than the other, especially when we're all desperate for answers and a way out. If all it'll take is a little more honesty to make him drop his harebrained idea,
Look,
so be
man.
it.
Bro, Z-Man, Zach, Zachary, listen. I know you only want to help.
Like hell! This ain't just about helping, Ashton! You're throwing yourself in the thick of it, on your own! Was your fall last night really that bad? Did you hit your head hard? I honestly can't tell if you've gone stupid or just plain suicidal.
My head's okay, Zach. But it won't stay that way if we don't do anything about this. Someone has to.
Seriously, this is already a desperate move. The longer we delay, the faster we're losing our options. Do we even have one? Looking back at it, this whole business with the ghost seems perfectly set up to drive us into a corner. Either until we lose our mind or she gets us. It's starting to feel as if there isn't an escape. We've already become her playthings the second Isabella found that letter. That our lives are in her hand ticks me off big time, but the idea of watching the people I care about die helplessly, more so. They're much safer here than with me. It's a selfish thought, I know, born out of fear. Actually, probably not. They're probably not safer without you. They haven't been safe when they haven't been with you to start with. You are stupid. You are stupid. So in case things go awry, the very last thing I want to happen is for Zach to take the fall with me. I've already made enough
And that
mistakes.
means it's just you.
Just me.
Suddenly he clams up. Although his actions, the restless shifts in his shoulder, his mouth pressing closed in a tight line, and how he starts off again in a quiet note. It all gives way away his real thoughts, long before two words have even made it out of his mouth.
I'm sure you already know about this. Maybe this is you trying to make amends, or whatever. I don't know. You're making your own decisions here. But if something happens to you, it'll be just that. There'll just be another dead body out there. Please, don't do something like this.
Don't worry. I'm not stupid enough to get myself killed. I just want things to go back to normal, Zach.
Another dead air follows at the heels of that one admission. The meaning of my words too heavy, too striking. It stuns us into another lull. Optimism aside, we're both aware that's impossible. We're going to have to deal with the trauma right after. There will be images, the voices whispering inside our heads, the foreboding feeling, the stench of blood, gore, and death trailing after us. We may survive this, but those things, they will remain with us for a long time. One does not survive something like this without it leaving something in you. Just the mere thought of what might come right after makes me dread it. But this has changed in all of us. But I suppose that outcome is more acceptable, the lesser of two
3
evils.
hours.
My head snaps up and I turn to him puzzled. He's staring at his hands with a thoughtful expression, brows furrowed in deep concentration, like he's trying to choose the right words to convey what he's
3
about to say.
hours? For what?
That's more than enough time to go there, to check things, like you said, and travel back here. If you don't show up here beyond that, I'm going after you.
From his tone, it sounds almost like a warning. I'm sure it's not his intention. But hearing something like that from a person like Zach, I can't help but chuckle and throw a jibe, despite how dire things are. But just
Make
like
that
old
4.
times.
What? You said you're just gonna check things. Why would you even need that long?
Speed limit? I'm a ranked law enforcement officer, Zach. I'm supposed to set an example.
I so wanna punch you right now.
Of course, Zach never carries it out. In light moments like this, I'm just how he is, how we are. Unfortunately, G chooses the next moment to show up. He slams the flat of his palm on the counter and chooses both a stern look. Although his tone's nothing short of jovial, the disapproval is clear in it. He obviously misunderstanding the situation.
Boys, drummer's nice and all. I used to watch these bloody god-awful afternoon serials with one of my brothers many, many years ago. But listen, I am not having one in my pub, all right? You two want to fight? Go out.
A pregnant pause. Then without any preamble, Zach and I both snicker and G's glower melts into confusion. When we both show no signs of stopping, he simply shakes his head and turns away. I'd like to think it's because this way, better that we part on light terms, so Zach won't have to see every little insecurity, every little doubt in me right now. He's seen enough. The last thing I want him to glimpse is another display of weakness. Not when he still stares at me with the same unerring confidence in his eyes. Unerring confidence in his eyes. When our mirth dies down, before anything can be said further, before I change my mind, I step away from them. Giving Zach's shoulder a quick few pats, mumbling a lame excuse about taking another short nap under my breath. Altogether bearing the stray thought that flashes fleetingly in my head. Zach has seen me at my lowest plenty of times. Why does all of it matter now? The sun hangs lower when I stumble back into consciousness and drag myself downstairs. Around this time, the patrons usually start to trickle into the main lounge until it reaches a peak around midnight. Today, however, it remains thin. But considering what day it isn't too worrisome for the kind of business G runs. He has always complained about the lack of a decent crowd on week start, although he doesn't really begrudge his customers for it. No one wants to start the week with a bad case of a hangover, after all, even him. Which makes the concerned look he gives me come off a bit too cold, a bit too odd, a little bit. With the kind of danger we're in, this swiftly puts me on edge, even before sleep completely fades from my mind.
Something wrong, G?
G hums, but there's an undertone of annoyance in it despite his casual, open movements. And only after he finishes wiping a tumbler and carefully setting it face down on the table does he give me an answer. The way he stares back at me honestly makes me squirm. It feels like I'm being stared down by a primary school's teacher for sleeping in class again.
Nothing much. Monday's still a slow day for this place. But you might want to check on your friends, kid. Looks like one of them woke up on the wrong side of the bed while you were out.
Another question forms in my head along with a small, confused frown. Though before a single syllable passed my lip, Rebecca's irate voice rings out from some part of the main lounge. From the sound of it appears that woke up on the wrong side of the bed is a complete understatement.
Alone? You know we can't just go in there. But we don't have any other choice, Becca! There's really no other way. We have to go there. If you'll just... Isabella, no.
That doesn't sound too comforting. Once Rebecca assumes that kind of tone in an argument with Isabella, it usually ends with one of them walking out or both giving the other the silent treatment. It lasts for about a week at most if it's really bad, which really isn't what we need right now. I've hoped the bad blood from this morning will simply blow over after all of us have gotten a decent rest. I should have expected things won't be the same with them as it is with Zach and I. Turns out sleep just isn't what some of us need. Even G appears to understand it. In spite of his efforts to look as unconcerned as possible, there's a tense set in his shoulders. A nervous edge lingers in his eyes as it occasionally flickers over where Rebecca and Isabella's voices are coming from. He doesn't want to deal with this, especially at the start of another busy week. Neither do I. Things have worked out well between them before, without Zach or I meddling. But the imploring gaze G directs at me leaves me with no other choice. It almost feels like he's guilting me into doing something about it. I hate that it's
You know
working.
how I run this pub, kid. No fist fights, no cat fights, only good booze, bad puns, and off-key singing. Go fix it before it blows up in your faces. I'd hate to throw two girls out of this place over a petty argument.
It's probably not as petty as if Rebecca's already shouting like that, but I gave him a nod
Sorry
nevertheless.
about this, G.
He hums something under his breath for an answer and waves me off, turning away and returning to his work without another word. And with a lack of sizable crowds, he likes to keep busy. We're the same in that regard. Can't remain still, always having to move, doing something, thinking, whatever keeps the brain at work. I'll leave him to it shortly after. Rebecca's voice rings out once again, followed by Isabella's. But part of me wants to thank him for all the trouble he has taken for people he barely even knows. Once this is over, I should probably find some way. In the meantime, I have this immediate problem to fix. Gotta get to this before it turns into a shitstorm both of them will regret. And I know both of them will. For all of Isabella's complaints about Rebecca's bossy attitude, or how annoying Rebecca sometimes finds the other's childlike demeanor, it's a friendship they both cherish in their own way. Rebecca's already on her feet when I spot them in an almost deserted area of the pub. I'm willing to bet my entire life saving that people are staying away only because of the brewing storm. Rebecca can have quite the mood when she's crossed. I can't speak for Isabella, I rarely ever see her seething, but from what I've heard, it can be very unpleasant. The way she's glaring up the red head from her seat, regardless of how much the other woman towers over her right now, already says everything. Empty plates have been left neatly piled at one... Oh dear. Empty plates have been left neatly piled on one corner of the table they occupy. A conversation that turned sour sometime after they ate lunch. Good thing they're already done and nothing left to be spilled. Because the next moment, before I can approach and intervene, Rebecca slams a palm on the table. It sends the silverware clinking sharply against the surface. Isabella flinches momentarily, we both do, though she shows no indication of surrendering in the face of Rebecca's temper. Everything escalates from there.
You've already gotten us in enough trouble because of this letter ghost everything.
You're blaming me again.
And you can't expect everyone to fix your mess. You keep on putting the blame on me, but you're the one who didn't listen. All of you. If you just listened in the first place, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But you're too busy acting like you know what's best for everyone, when in fact you're the one who's being selfish. I'm the one who's selfish. Yet you're still going to do what you want anyway, even if the people around you are already beside themselves with worry. This is how you've always acted since we met, and I'm tired of it. Sometimes I wish you never even came here, because all you've given us is a headache. You know why I had to come here. My dad. Your dad has nothing to do with this. It has always been you and your whiny, careless self that has always been the problem.
Maybe I should have stepped in earlier. Maybe I should have said something the moment Rebecca had slammed the flat of her hand on the table or the second I've entered the area. Either way, it's too late to act. Harsh words have already been hurled between the two. Words more cutting than any blade, each and every one of it digging a wound too deep in the person they've been aimed at. For a long time, Isabella sits there in silence, while Rebecca stands unmoving, arms crossed and breathing heavy. Despite the lack of words between them, they're both vibrating with anger, refusing to meet the other's eyes. Ever so slowly, the atmosphere in the room turns thick and smothering. A strained air no one in the immediate vicinity, including me, dares to break until the ones at the center does. Rebecca definitely won't. At some point in our friendship, she has grown to become a woman firm with her opinions. She's never going to back down from this, not when she knows she has a point. Isabella, on the other hand, there has always been a certain stubbornness in her, as frustrating as it is to see sometimes. It's what has gotten her through her life's hardships. Perhaps even the only thing that has. When you have nothing else, people tend to cling onto what they have within themselves instead. But she also knows when to withdraw, when a struggle turns useless. A kind of awareness almost second nature to her. When enough is enough, Isabella abruptly stands and marches towards the exit, in fast, rigid steps away from the hurt and painful words they've let fly earlier. She bumps into me in her haste, the impact nearly knocking her off her feet. Instinct kicks in the last moment. I reach out for her, grabbing her arm in the steady grip. Surprise flits across her face, an expression mirrored by Rebecca behind her. Neither of them have noticed me. Oh, that doesn't mean I won't say anything about this. Okay, so this is gonna probably make one of them. So I'm gonna agree with Rebecca, only because in his head, he wants to do this himself. So taking Isabella aside that she wants to go there. Now this is assuming this is what they're even talking about. So just for my own clarity here, let me just quickly save. Because I don't trust shit. And
Okay.
Let go, Ashton.
Rebecca has a point, though.
I know, Ash. I just thought we'd find something in there. That if I go back, we'll get the answers we need. I found the letter there, so maybe, right?
it's not that I don't agree with her. Hell, I've been considering the same thing. It's the only lead we have, after all. But Rebecca also has a point I will always agree with, no matter how desperate I am. It's not going to be a simple walk in the park. Who knows what we might find in there. If she comes with me, I won't be able to guarantee your safety. She'll be in even greater danger. Hence, alone. Exactly as I have told Zach. If there's a need to go back to that accursed place, I'm doing it on my own. Whether or not the rest of them agree with this plan is inconsequential. Their well-being is my top priority, and I'm not about to drag them in there with me. So I tell her as much, despite the determination and desperation in her eyes, anything to keep her safe.
You're not going back to that mansion.
But Ash, what about...
This isn't up for debate. Do you really think they'll just let you in? Do you really think they'll give a damn if you walk in there carrying that stupid letter of all things?
No, but there has to be something we can tell them.
Look, I really can't let you do that, Belle.
Ash, the people living in that place now, they were with me during the open house. They have to know. They're in as much trouble as we are.
I know, but it's risky. It's dangerous. You don't know what you might find in there. Or if you'll even find anything. What if you see her again? What if she goes after you? What are you going to do? For all you know, it might be a dead end. It's not worth it. Put yourself in harm's way like that.
Isabella offers no response, not even a form of resistance. No further arguments like I come to expect from her. Uncharacteristic. Just a silence that stretches far too thin till the air in the whole room grows heavy. She merely averts her gaze and hastily wipes the tears off her cheeks, like she only noticed them in that moment. Then, without another word or even meeting my eyes, she gently brushes my hand away and runs off, leaving an awkward hush in her wake. Rebecca soon slumps on the chair Isabella has just left, gingerly reaching up to press the bridge of her nose and breathing out a ragged exhale. Arguments like this have always drained both her patience and energy, usually more than her rowdy students do, despite being no stranger to it. In the quietness of the room, I find myself drifting towards her and taking the empty seat next to her. Shortly, she leans her shoulders to mine, like she used to do all those years ago, when all that mattered to us were grades and what kind of trouble we'll get into the next weekend. No curse, no letter, no ghosts. Just us and whatever our imagination will take
How are you
us.
holding up?
Barely, but I'll be fine. It's probably just this curse thing getting to me.
Not bad, huh?
Excuse me, you're stuck in this nightmare too. And then there's Isabella just being frustrating.
You don't mean that.
She makes a face, having been caught in her lie, before allowing a small smile to replace it.
Yeah, you're right. I don't. She might act like that, but in the end, she's still my best friend. I should probably apologize later.
Your fights never did last long.
They're always so petty these days. I just can't wait for this whole thing to be over. That way we can go back to how everything used to be.
You know that's impossible.
The truth. We both falter into silence in the face of it. Her mouth opens briefly, and I assume she's about to argue her opinion about it. Maybe say something contrary to it, but eventually she simply nods, breathes out, and relaxes her rigid posture. A rare occurrence when she's almost always has something on her mind. Seeing it, a smile spreads across my face, knowing and perhaps a little pleased. It's one thing to know of change. Watching it play out in front of me is an entirely different matter. In that one exchange, I've caught a short, clear glimpse of what has shifted, of what's inevitable. So much has changed throughout the years. We will never be the same person we once were. I see you there, cleaning that rug. And perhaps it's for the better. Rebecca notices soon enough, like she always did. Whatever she sees in my face startles her, causing her to jerk away.
Why are you staring at me like that? I know that look, Ashton Frey. That's definitely not a nothing. You wouldn't be wearing that expression if you didn't have something on your mind.
Really? It's nothing. It's just that when we were kids, you weren't really the kind of person who spoke her mind. Someone else always had to stand up for you. You've changed a lot, Becca.
What did you expect? It's been, what, 17, 18 years?
What I'm trying to say is, I think I like this version of you more.
A beat.
Except when you're mad, and you're yelling, and you're glaring daggers at everyone. You're pretty scary, you know.
Well, don't say that so casually. Also, if you're just going to complain, we might as well just end this talk right now.
See what I mean? Even Z-Man's scared of you. I bet my entire salary on it.
She swats at my arm, the gesture light and familiar. It causes us both to burst into peals of laughter afterwards. When was the last time we shared something like this? I can't even remember. It's nice, though. To have another conversation like this, to sit side by side, simply enjoying each other's company. I'm not very fond of looking to the past. Most of it means having to remember unpleasant things for me, but sometimes coiled around the bad, there are good ones. And Rebecca's there for the most of it. I would shut the door, but because of how this room's set up, the door is actually behind the TV right now because the TV slides in and out of the room. And Rebecca's there for most of it. Things may change, but our friendship is one thing I will hold dear. We may meet new people throughout our lives, but that doesn't mean I will care for her any less. Which makes this whole business with the letter even more urgent. While Rebecca's right, Isabel's reasoning also makes sense. Hell, I've been considering the same thing. It's the only lead we have, after all. With what's at stake, I can't let this curse win, if such a thing ever makes sense when dealing with the supernatural. Tonight, by any means, I need to go check that accursed place. Alone. Because who knows what we might find there. Whether or not the rest of them agree with this plan is inconsequential. Their well-being is my top priority. I'm not just about to drag them in there with me. My apprehension must have been quite obvious on my face. In a sudden motion, Rebecca reaches out and taps my arm. Although she does it gently, it startles me, nevertheless, and it's enough to put a worried look on her. For a moment, she studies my face, eyes scrutinizing, searching. But before I can even avert my gaze, Keep her from getting a read on me. She straightens, her worry abruptly fading to a look of
You
disapproval.
have a plan in mind, don't you?
It's a simple yes or no question. I can easily lie. Yet her tone completely belies everything her words mean. I may as well tell her everything. When all is said and done, she's still one of the few people I trust. However, with every vein in my body knows she'll be the first one to disagree, put her foot down and stop me. And once she does, who else will be left to fix this? Zach? Isabella? Her? I do understand her concerns, but there are times when they are misplaced. This complication isn't what I need at the moment. What am I supposed to say? What is she expecting to hear from me? What answer will satisfy her? She certainly appears like she's hoping for more than a yes or no for an answer I can't give at the moment. She doesn't like when I lie to her, but
I need to head off somewhere tonight.
a vague answer. It's all I can offer, and hopefully this will be enough. It's not an outright lie, but that thought doesn't make me feel any less awful about this. It's worse when you know she's asking only because she's worried. Part of me wants to tell her, admit that Isabella's suggesting exactly what I'm planning tonight. What good will it do, though? I've already told Zach, one person is enough. Hell, simply letting someone in on the plan makes me iffy. Broadening that circle and revealing too much would just cause another pointless concern. But someone has to be aware, at least where I'm heading off to, in case things don't pan out. Expect the worst, even if it's only intending to do a quick survey of the place. In my own words, risky. Rebecca doesn't need to know the kind of danger I might be throwing myself in tonight. She should prioritize herself and her own safety first before others. But it never is that easy for her, is it?
Am I allowed to ask questions this time?
You're asking one right now, aren't you?
It's a serious question, Ashton. Yes or no?
You can, but I can't promise I'll answer them.
That's a nice way of saying no. You might as well just tell me to shut up.
You know I don't mean it like that.
Is there something I can do at least?
For an instant, I hesitate, pausing, fumbling for an answer. It's more difficult with her because all this time she still looks at me as if I'm the kid from years ago, who she depended on when she had yet to find herself, who she turned to for answers despite my lack of them. It makes me all the more afraid to fuck up this time. And in the case I do, she's the last person I want to be with me. Getting her into trouble. Getting her killed is not how I want to repay the friendship she has so generously offered after all these years. My friends are not supposed to be the ones taking the repercussions of my mistakes. Those are my own doing, of my own responsibility. I fear a heavy weight on my shoulders they shouldn't be dragged into carrying. However, if there's one thing I can trust her
Stay safe.
with. Oh, this is nice. I just realized our whole... Well, good news is... we haven't really... Not much has happened. So it's like all you're really seeing or hearing is words and pictures changing, so we're good. Not that big of a deal. I swear to God, this system, though, constantly changes, and I'm hoping when I get my new computer one day, it doesn't do that. It just will work magically each time.
Keep the others safe. Watch over them while I'm out there. Make sure no one does anything stupid. You're good with that kind of stuff.
I'm a high school teacher, Ash. Not anyone's babysitter.
A grimace is on her face, but I know she'll do it, even without me asking for it. She cares more than anyone, more than what her fiery temper expresses, and it eases something in me knowing the others will have someone like her there. Sure enough, after a stretch of silence, she eventually nods. She does not entirely agree with this, it's the distant look on her face, but she's willing to trust me on this. For now, that's enough. Either way, it's best that we simply leave things here for now. There's already an understanding, albeit something we both don't agree with. No need to push it further. With a light reassuring squeeze on her shoulder, I stand up as soon as footsteps shuffle from the next room, a cadence slow and hesitant. Shortly, Isabella comes into view, clutching her hands firmly in front of her and sporting the same uncertainty in her face. She casts me a cursory look, then shifts a nervous one to Rebecca, who studies her with a curious gleam in her eyes. Their fights never did last long.
Are you free? Am I interrupting something? If it's okay, can we talk?
Her interruption could not have come sooner, and I'm all the more glad for it. Whatever kind of friendship I share with these two, this remains something for only the two of them, much like my own with Zach. I'm the outsider, they don't need me here. It's all the reason I need. Muttering an excuse and flashing Rebecca a quick, knowing smile, I beat a hasty exit out of the main lounge and leave them to mend things on their own. Before Rebecca can say what's on her mind, before the last frustrated glare she directs my way forces me to change my mind. It's another lasting image that firmly etches itself in my memory, one that spurs the conscience among the other things. I just hope I won't regret what I've chosen for myself tonight. I'm gonna sneeze.